What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about the others chart today. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it. I like going over the others chart because it's like the equivalent of, analyzing the S&P or the NASDAQ, the QQQs, any index, major index in the stock markets. This is kind of the closest thing we have, or one of the closer things we have in crypto. Of course, Bitcoin is kind of the key index in crypto, but even that's kind of not the best. This tracks altcoins a lot better. Bitcoin can sometimes lead coins, and then when it consolidates, coins break out. This is a more accurate representation of what you can expect the average altcoin to do, not just over the coming weeks, but maybe over the coming cycle. So if that sounds good to you, let's go over the game plan with this stuff. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get it, you guys. So looking at this here on a 3-day time frame, we're on the 3-day. Each one of these bars takes 3 days to open and close, right? We've just started this one. We're 2 days, 19 hours left before we close it. Okay, we've just started this one. Looking like the overall market essentially is in the form of this kind of bull flag. And that makes sense, right? I would expect the average coin looks something like this, right? They've had a nice bullish move up. They're in a relative area of consolidation from that move, and there are bull flags rampant in the space right now, okay? So likely most coins not only look like this, but have broken out of their bull flag range. They're in the midst of a breakout move right now, right? And we're looking, is this a fake out? Are we going to go down? Or is this a breakout and we're going to go higher? And I'm going to give you a couple of things to watch for in case either of those cases are true. From a high to a low, essentially if the others chart gets back below the 382, that to me would invalidate this, and we likely would see a market-wide drop. So essentially for the average altcoin, we have to see the average coin drop over 14%. Some coins would have to drop more, some coins would have to drop less, but the average coin market participant here in crypto would have to drop 14% before we'd have to see a 14% correction across the markets before I was concerned that this low here was not the low. As of now, I'm very convinced that that is low. As of now, it looks like we're breaking out. As of now, it seems that we are on our way higher than this high here across the board for the markets. And that's a big deal on this chart, because if we look at this, that would imply that we're breaking out to new all-time highs. On this chart would imply new all-time highs across the board, which implies price discovery across the board, people. That's a very, very bullish thing, very bullish metric to go off of. So 14% if you're looking to invalidate this breakout to the upside. And if you want to validate it, I mean, technically, I think you have to get above that high to validate it, but let's just look from a fib perspective if there's any other validations we can look for. You've kind of already done it, I think. You've kind of already done it, I would say. I suppose get above 428 billion, so another 13% pump, essentially a 14% drop would invalidate it. I think a 13% pump would validate that we are breaking out, that we are moving higher. So look for that to happen. All right, now instead of the if-thans, now instead of the what to look for to confirm or deny things, let's give a projection out to what I would expect. Okay, so we're looking at this here on the 3-day time frame, finding higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, and nice symmetry here, higher highs as well. You're in this kind of parallel channel. To me, I don't know about you guys, but it seems like every time we're at the bottom here, we go to the top. So I'm suspecting being at the bottom here, we might be moving to the top, which agrees with the idea that we're breaking out to the upside. It agrees with the look. If this is a bull flag, if it is to be respected as a bull flag, and potentially it is, from a low point to a high point here, if we measure this move out going to this low here, that would take us all the way up to about $700 billion in total crypto market cap for the others chart, which means that everything outside the top 10 collectively would have a $700 billion market cap. From a high to a low, that puts you just below the 1272, right? And that again, that's the measure move of this bull flag. So let's just see if there's any other targets that make sense for that. If we take a high to a low here, maybe there's some targets that are just below. Right there at the 1618, okay? You could go higher. And another thing too, with bull flags, if this is a bull flag, and I think it is, you don't have to hit the measure move. You can fall short of it. You can exceed it. You don't have to hit it, but there is a 1618 golden extension right here just below it, right? So that would imply if we stop here, I think this is a good kind of metric to go off of, right, is the measure move and the 1272, and then the golden extension here. We'll have 3 targets for you. So what I would expect the average coin to do from here on out, essentially, would be at a minimum to grow 24%, but likely if you break out of this, you probably don't stop at 24%, but likely 24% would be the minimum. My expectation would be that truly the true minimum should be like 41%. Because again, I don't think you're going to stop. I don't think that once you get above this high here, you're going to just stop right at the first target. I think the next target would be probably a more suitable minimum. So that's 42%, and then the 1618 is all the way up at 70% there. That means that essentially anything from a 40% move to, I think, at the measure move here, an 81% move across the board should be expected over the coming weeks. I certainly do suspect by the end of the month that kind of move across the board, 40 to 80% should be on the docket, on the minds of anybody holding any kind of crypto. But beyond that, I do think that we'll see this thing grow. I do think that, again, being at this overall high from last cycle to the overall low, overall low of the bear cycle, when we break out of this range, I suspect, breaking out of this here, it will result in a larger move overall. So I think this measure move, while it is suggesting that we would see an 80% move across the board, and that's fine. That's totally fine. It would be an 80% move from the current price, by the way, right? That's fine. But this 1886, to me, the measure move, if it's going above the 1618, the next target's likely the 1886. Based off of this fib, if you're going above the 886, you're going above the 100. The next target is the 1272. That 1272 lines up with this 1886 very well, which would mean that the average coin has about a 114 to 123%, maybe 140% growth left in it. And I was saying in a couple videos earlier tonight, I was like, the average coin has a 90% move left in it, and that was the minimum expectation, and that was because of this here. But now it's at like 69%, really 70%. That's because the last time that I measured this, we were down here, and it was like a 90% move. So I've kind of gotten some outdated information. I'm glad that I'm doing this because otherwise I'd probably just keep saying that tonight. Any videos, if you watched any videos tonight specifically, or even probably over the last 3 days, if I said that the average coin is going to move up at least 90%, that has changed. That has changed over the last 3 days. Technically, that minimum move now, I would say I'd feel very safe saying is probably like 70%. Technically, sure, 40%, but I think 70% is a safe assumption to make, 70 to 80%. And then truthfully, I do believe that the average crypto will move up 112 to 133%, something like that. The purpose of this video is not to tell you what the average coin is doing, or maybe that is the purpose, is to tell you what the average coin is doing, but that's not necessarily the main I don't know what word to use. The main realization is what the average coin is doing. It's the realization of what you can do with that, right? If you're aware of what the average coin is doing and you're holding a crypto, if your crypto underperforms the average crypto, you have the answer. Do I hold this coin or do I get out and to get into something else? You have the answer right there. If you underperform any of the targets we've given here, really, and I know I said 40%. At first I said it was 20%, and then I said 40%, but truthfully, I think 65, 70% should be the average minimum from here to the end of January. If your coin doesn't move up 70% between now and the end of January, 70% at a minimum, you've probably got an underperformer. And if it's inside the top 10, that's okay. But if it's outside the top 10, what are you doing, right? Inside the top 10, they might underperform, but they're less risky, so that's okay. Outside the top 10, you're more risky and you're underperforming. What are you doing? If you see something that's at 120 to 130%, that'll be at the upper ends of average performance for crypto, which means you probably have a good one. And then if you have a showstopper, you have something that's beating the whole crypto cycle, not the whole crypto cycle, but the average crypto market participant, you would see something that's probably larger than 130% move between now and the end of January, going into the end of February even, right? Between now and the next month and a half would be my expectation. I don't suspect this move will be over by the end of January. I think by the end of January, some coins will have topped off. Most coins won't. I think sometime in February, middle of February, end of February will be when we get this next kind of local high, right? I don't mean a cycle ending high. I just mean like this was a local high, right? I don't mean a high like this either. It might be a consolidation phase that lasts this long. It might be something that lasts longer. But all in all, I think that the average coin, I've given a very kind of descriptive opinion as to what I think the average coin is going to do. We've got a bullish as hell looking weekly RSI. It would make sense that we bounce here. We've got a bullish as hell looking 3-day RSI. It would make sense that we bounce here as well, and the monthly as well. That they're all looking bullish. You look ripe and ready to break out of this. It certainly does look like a cup and handle pattern to me, and we've just broken out. If this is a cup and handle pattern as well, from a low to the right side, that's where you measure it from. And then I think you measure from here. That'd put you all the way up at $2 trillion. That could be a cycle-ending high for the altcoin market cap, but I think you'd go higher than that. Personally, I think that the altcoin market is going to see a $6 trillion market cap by the end of the cycle. But that, if you want that, actually, before we end the video, for context's sake, in the name of talking about the average market participant here, guys, what this means, and based off of my predictions, and I'm not going into the extreme detail on this part, I'm just going to tell you that I think we're going to $6 trillion. The reason why, essentially, is because that's what Bitcoin does. It likes its 2272s. It's done that 2 out of the last 3 cycles. It goes to its 2272s. The only time it didn't go to the 2272, it hit the 1618. So that's a good minimum target. But I don't think the average altcoin is going to do a 4x from here throughout the end of the cycle. That's what this would mean, right? 4.3x would be the average altcoin move. I think up here, the 2272, 6 trillion, that makes more sense to me. And the average altcoin seeing about a 15, 16x left, that makes sense to me. So essentially what this is saying, and again, I'm not going into great detail to explain why I think this is here, but this is my end of season target, not just for Bitcoin, but for the altcoin market as well, is the 2272s of the last major cycle high to cycle low. It's the 2272 from the current price. The current market cap reading of this others chart, what that would tell us, what that the expectation then would be, is that the average coin sees about 1,500% growth. That's a 16x. That doesn't mean every coin will see a 16x. Most of them will probably see something just below or just above a 16x, maybe a 14x, maybe a 20x, right? But the average, if you were to average it, would be a 17x, so or 16x, something around there, right? Don't hold out. If you're holding a coin and it gets to a 14x and you think it's going to hit a 16x just because of this perspective here, but there's other readings that indicate it's at a top, don't hold out for that. If there's a coin that's at a 17x and you feel like it's hot, but the indicators are showing that it's got more to go, don't sell yourself short either. But I think I've made my point. I don't really know if I have anything else that I want to say. 16, 17x, that's kind of the maximum potential that I would, or not that maximum, the average potential that I would expect for the average crypto coin going forward here between now and the end of this move, which I suspect to be by the end of January, if not more likely sometime in February. I suspect the average crypto will move up anything from about 70% to 150%, I think was the target, or 130% was the high end of that, right? So if you have a coin that's moving up more than either, more than 130%, you've got a top performer or a above average performer. If you got something that's not even moving up about 70%, you've got something that's below average, and you should probably consider rotating your money into other things. If your coin has been moving up while everything else is consolidating, and then while everything moves up, your coin consolidates, it's a bit of a different story. Like if your coin's moved up 100% this week while everything else is figuring itself out, and then over this next 2-week period or 3-week period, every coin moves up 70% and your coin corrects, that's different. But if your coin's been correcting and consolidating with the rest of the market over this past month and it doesn't move up with the market, that should be concerning. That's just my thoughts. I hope that makes sense. I hope it's not too specific or particular, but I got nothing else for you guys. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more content like this. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.